Enda, welcome. Welcome to our Leaders Who Care series. It's great to see you again, and thank you for joining us.
You too, Mark. Thanks for inviting me. It's great to be on this. I haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you. Yeah.
I know. Well, not everybody says that, so I appreciate you saying that. No, it's always great to see you. Kind of like Commonwealth brothers in a way, which is always good too. Canada, Ireland, and so I think
ancestors in common. Ancestors in common.
Absolutely. Let's start. If you could briefly introduce yourself, who you are, tell us something really personal that no one knows about you, stuff like that would be great, and then we'll chat.
Sure. Well, my name is Enda Walsh. I am the president of Fives North American Operations. Live in Miami, married for 27 years, 2 teenage kids, both in college. And an incredibly large and troublesome dog. We have 100-pound Great Pyrenees, and it's amazing. You should go online and check. There are societies for people who end up owning Great Pyrenees and how to deal with them. Incredible animal. So Fives is an international fresh produce company. It was originally an Irish company, Irish family company. It grew and grew and grew, and then in 2017, got acquired by the giant Japanese corporation, Sumitomo Corporation. So Fresh Cut Produce Company, we're a very similar company to Chiquita or Del Monte, which most people in the US are very familiar with. We own farms in Central America. We grow bananas, melons, and pineapples, and we ship those products to Europe and the US, and we sell them to supermarkets. And we also own a number of mushroom farms across Canada. We are the largest mushroom producer in Canada. I joined Fives 26 years ago. And as I told my friends at the time, I joined for 1 year. They offered me a great job. The exact job I was looking for: go to Holland, work as part of our team, acquiring companies, travel all around Europe. You're part of the acquisition team. But I said to my friends, bananas, I have no interest in this banana company. There's nothing sexy about bananas. So I'll do this for a year, and then I'll join you in the high-tech, high whiz world. And you find you like what you do, you like the industry, you like the people, and before you know it, you're one of the old guys. So that's it in a nutshell. So.
All right. Well, you peeled off. I'm trying to think of a good pun here to say, but. You peeled off the bananas for us to get into some of the details. But I want to ask you this first. There's always a lot of talk about people's why now, which I really like, and the whole Simon Sinek thing. But more specifically, why do you do what you do?
I think the single biggest reason is I just like it. I think it's unusual to find people who worked with one corporation for so long.
Yeah.
And like I said at the beginning, it was not my intention, but it's a very interesting industry. When I joined it first, I had no idea of the role that fresh produce played in economies of countries around the world. I had this image of, farmer takes something out of the ground, puts it in a box, sends it to a shop. And it really is a global industry, and it is an industry that's of huge importance to some of the countries that we operate in. And then along with that, it gave me a very interesting life. I lived in Europe, traveled around Europe, went back to Ireland, then came to the US. We started to buy farms and land in Latin America and in South America, and then we built a business in North America. So it's a very varied job. And one of the things I like about it most, and this probably is a huge element of the why, is I deal with people from different countries and different cultures all the time. And it's a challenge, but you have to interact differently with all of them. Last 4 or 5 years, I'm dealing with Canadians. I dealt with some Israelis for years. Hondurans, Guatemalans, Costa Ricans. When I was in Europe, I dealt with the Japanese. I dealt with the Brazilians for years. And they're very, very different. And you discover different versions of yourself dealing with them. Because what works in one country doesn't necessarily work in the other country. And if you want to succeed in all of these countries, it's not that you have to be false, but you just have to find a way to adapt to the way they work and work with them. And I find that very interesting. And I often say to people, people from country X can be very frustrating, but I'm sure I can be very frustrating. That's what makes it interesting. You're dealing with different people from different places, and you also learn a lot. It's very, very interesting to travel to these countries and see how the people live. And I often say, you go into a supermarket and you buy a pound of bananas for 59 cents. And you'd love to take people to Colombia and let them see the amount of work that goes into harvesting that piece of fruit, packing it in a food safe way, shipping it in a controlled environment, ripening it artificially, getting it to the supermarket, displaying it properly, and they pay 59 cents for it. And some people complain that it's too much. And it's like, and I know, I probably do the same. I probably pick up eggs and go, the hen laid these out the back 20 minutes ago, and there's some army of people who go through hell to deliver those eggs to you. But it's an interesting, at many levels, it's a very simple business, but at other levels, it's a very complex business, and it's just interesting. So I like it, and it's an interesting lifestyle, and that's the why in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, it's you raised so many things there, and you even answered some of my questions already. It's like, it's interesting how agribusiness is evolving right now. And you mentioned the hen laying the eggs in the back. There is something to be said about how communities used to grow their own food before there was supply chains, before there was all this transport, before. And there was some benefits of that in the sense of freshness. There was some benefits in that with respect to community, and the benefit of just growing something and making something together, where it's actually happening in the world more now. I was talking to somebody recently where they have senior citizens combining with kids in community gardens. Yeah. And growing stuff, but there's a bigger picture there. There's education of the kids. There's a camaraderie, sort of senior people with the kids, and all well-being like that. How do you view how the agribusiness is changing with respect to like what I just said, and also health-wise, because people talk about pesticides and all this stuff and everything. What's your thoughts on all that?
I think there are a few areas in where it's changing for the better. I think sustainability has become a huge issue. The US is a little bit behind Europe in that the European retailers are much stronger on sustainability than the US retailers. And we really see it here. We deal with all the major retailers in the US, and the ones with European parent companies have very strict standards in terms of sustainability. They all do audits to ensure that you are farming with sustainable practices, that you're socially compliant with all of the, not just with all of the local laws, they all have standards of social compliance that you must adhere to. And if their standard is higher than the local law, then you must adhere to their standard. So I think that's a good development. It has added complexity to the business, and it has added expense to the business, but it's a very, very good addition to the business. And then at the other end of it, you see the Eat Local movement is definitely grown. It's still very small, but it's definitely grown. And there's another element of the Eat Local trend, which I find very interesting, and it's this whole area of indoor agriculture. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've followed much of it, but there are a number of relatively large corporations now in the US who are growing leafy greens and herbs and spices indoor in warehouses and in basically in tower blocks outside New York and in New Jersey and outside Chicago. And that's, it's very safe from a food safety point of view. A lot of it is grown hydroponically. There are no pesticides. There's no not that the refrigeration process is in any way unsafe, but it's fresh. It's fresh and delivered to your door. So I think there are a lot of good developments in agriculture, but a lot of them are stemming from the need for transparency and the need for sustainability, and that's good. It's made our business more complicated, but ultimately it's very, very good.
Did you purposely say stemming from?
No, I didn't. That was a pun.
That was very good, though. I'll have to introduce you to a lady I know that is the CEO of a company that has technology for closest thing to sunlight, basically, to do a lot of indoor growing, not only of leafy and vegetables and whatever, cannabis to everything in between.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting stuff that's happening. Regenerative obviously is a big topic right now too.
Yeah.
It's the word of the day, going beyond sustainability to regeneration. Movies like Kiss the Ground. I don't know if you've seen that. And
yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, and soil and everything that how to basically how to recover the farming. How do you and Fifes see the future with respect to farms and farming, and here and in other countries, to save the soil, to save the land?
I think the increased focus on it is really good, because corporations, being what they are, they will strive to produce at the lowest cost, and the market pushes people to produce at the lowest cost. And then by the people, the ultimate consumer and the public, demanding corporate social responsibility and sustainable agricultural practices, that doesn't let corporations do that. And I think everybody wants to do the right thing, but the corporate world is pretty brutal and everybody's under a lot of pressure. So a lot of times it needs to be, if not forced to do the right thing, at least asked to do the right thing. And if the corporate world is asked to do the right thing, it will respond. So I think that attention is good. And I think that's absolutely the way corporate agriculture is going. And we see ourselves, it's really, you must sustain and grow the communities. Agriculture in Central America is a very, very labor intensive industry. Mm-hmm. And we have an obligation to the people in the communities to develop their communities. And it's not just pay them better. Of course, you must pay them better. But we invest in schools and hospitals. And we have a seasonal, one of our big products is melons, which is a seasonal product. So for example, in Honduras, we can have up to 10,000 seasonal workers between November and May. In southern Honduras, in a poor area, they have no work in the summer. So we give them the land and we give them free use of our equipment and we give them the seed and they grow corn. So their contribution is their labor. So, we have managers there and agronomists and expertise, and we give them access to that. But they work in the summer and they work for themselves and they feed themselves. And I think those type of initiatives are very, very important. And these countries are, when you travel around them and you see the level of poverty, it really strikes you that to lift these people to the next level, we need to do these things. We need to help them and help them grow and sustain them. And I think that's very, very important at a human level. And it's also very important for the industry. And the age of social media, all of this is much more amplified. People have access to where the product came from, how the people in that area live their lives. 10 years ago, they didn't have that. And young people are demanding it. I said, I have two teenage kids. My son and daughter, it's important to them. And they're the consumers of the future. It's important to them that they buy products from companies who they know to treat people well and treat the environment and the planet well. So without a doubt, that would be the biggest thing of the next 10 to 15 years.
You remind me of what Jay Leno said when he interviews Robin Williams. He used to say, all I got to do is say, hey, Robin, and he takes it. So I love you because you just answer my questions without me asking them.
But you just brought up one of the people I admire most. I don't know if you can see it in the background, but Robin Williams' biography is up there in the shelf. I really liked him. I really enjoyed him. Yeah. Genius.
If not to get off track, but if you ever see his hour and a half, 2-hour Broadway or New York-based show, it's fantastic.
The HBO special?
I think it's HBO special. Yeah,
yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Really fantastic. But you raise a point that we're very involved in. Our core businesses is strategically working with corporate leaders and whatnot about how to align themselves with social and environmental impact for a good ROI and whatnot. That helps them attract the best talent. That helps them keep the best talent. That helps with respect to consumers. But it took decades for corporates to realize, be forced to, be asked to, whatever, to align with impact to do that, because they realize that's the only way they're going to get the best people. So, so what you're talking about in Central America is exactly that, and it works better, obviously, if you're authentic doing it, because you're right. Consumers are now looking more in detail of who they're buying from, and definitely talent, like your teenagers, are going to not take jobs if the company doesn't have purpose and wants to make a difference. So I gather from what you're saying, you're seeing that too.
We're seeing that too, and I say to the guys at work, this is a little bit off topic, but it goes back to the listen to young people. You know, agriculture is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can't tell the melons or the pineapples that it's Thanksgiving or it's Christmas or it's whatever holiday you want. So, you know, in the past, and by the past I mean 20 years ago, people they treated agriculture almost like a vocation. If you went into this industry, you worked 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. So now you hear, I was going to say, you hear old guys in the industry, guys my age, will say, oh, young people won't work anymore, and young people don't want to work, and oh, you know. And I always say, the responsibility is on us to create a work environment where young people want to work. Mm-hmm. Because we have two choices. We can sit back and complain that young people won't work, and suddenly we have no talent. Or we can adapt and create the environment that young people do want to work in. Now, I know which side of that I want to be on, but that's a challenge, because a lot of, you know, to an extent, agriculture is a lifestyle, and you do get a lot of people who've been in agriculture all their lives because they love it. And it's a challenge to get some of these people who grew up working the fields 7 days a week. It's a challenge to get them to accept that young people want a 35 or 40-hour weekday, and they want flexibility, and they want the chance to work at home, and they want the chance to shop at work, and all this type of stuff. So to me, it's simple.
Well, it's kind of like we were talking about traveling and everything, and different cultures and the way they do different things. And you said you love that, you embrace it, you learn from it, you enjoy it. Especially in the last, 30, 40, 50 years, we've seen so many things happen technologically. We got COVID going on. We got the tipping point for racial justice, which was way too long coming. We got wildfires in here. I mean, Mother Nature is not a happy camper, bottom line right now. And why wouldn't you want to be on that side that you're talking about and say, wow, this is like awesome. This is cool. And listen about maybe better ways to look at things, better ways to do things, diversity of people and their perspectives. Wouldn't that be more exciting?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So what I want to ask you with respect to that is, have you seen, quote unquote, an awakening, if you will, with us being at home more and all that, about what's really important in our lives and for the future?
We absolutely have seen that. And two aspects. One you mentioned earlier on was the travel, but we have all proved to ourselves we don't all need to be in the same room. We can be just as efficient working from home. Mm-hmm. And we have proved to ourselves, and our employees have proved to us, that they can be trusted to work from home. I mean, people want to do a good job. Everybody wants to do a good job. Everybody wants to feel that they have contributed. And there were people, when I say older people, I don't necessarily mean in terms of years, it means a mentality. Right. No, if they're not in the office, they're not doing anything. So we have learned we don't need to be in the office. I think the other thing we've learned that you alluded to is we don't need to travel all the time. And one of the examples I've used is our mushroom business in Canada. I used to go up to the monthly meeting. Now you attend by video. Now, I think you missed something. When we start to travel again, I'll probably go every quarter, because I always say when you have a video conference like this, you'll get through the agenda and a little bit of side chat. But when you're in a position like mine, where you're on the board of the Canadian company, but you're not involved in the day-to-day management, a huge amount of the information that you gather about the business and the problems and the people you hear at the dinner the night before, in the chat in the corridor, the cup of coffee, you drop into somebody's office, and that's invaluable, the human contact. So I don't think you eliminate travel. I think that's still very, very important, but we don't need to do as much with it as we did. And I think we've all realized that. You don't always have to be there. You can be on the screen as well.
Yeah, I know you're hitting on a lot of good points. And, one thing that I'm always asked when we're doing searches for people and whatnot is, and you can tell it kind of relates to Leaders Who Care, is candidates will ask, do they really care? And this company, the people there, do they really care? And there's three types of well-being they're generally asking about: their financial well-being, their physical well-being, and their mental well-being. The mental could include spiritual. And they want all of those. They don't want to sacrifice financial otherwise they might go work at a nonprofit to get paid less and do good. They don't want to sacrifice making a difference and having purpose for more money. They want both. And it's not even a matter of work-life balance. That's a misnomer. You don't stop work to have life and then stop life to have work. That's like out the window. It's all together now. So what do you see the future role is of, if you will, business leaders who care have to ensure that their people have their three well-beings taken care of?
Well, I've always believed that in a management position or a business position, you must surround yourself with good people. And you're only going to surround yourself with good people if you give them the environment that they want to be in. So I think our job is to give people an environment where you give them the environment to work in, you give them the support, you give them all the tools, and you're available to them. And if you have a happy, positive, reinforcing work environment where people are allowed to flourish and allowed to develop and allowed to be themselves, I think you'll keep people and you'll get good people. And I think that's very, very important. And I think we're seeing the end of the let's nail them to the desk mentality. Let's lock the doors and not open them till 7 o'clock at night. I really do think you're seeing the end of that. But I think it's very, very important that to go back to a point I made earlier, is that the future leaders recognize that the people in their 20s today want something different than we did when we were in our 20s. And if we don't give them something different, we're not going to have them. They're just not going to come to work. And my wife always says, stop giving out about young people. I don't, but she says to other people, stop giving out about young people because time is on their side. In the end, they're going to be right. And it really, it bugs me. It really bugs me when I hear people saying, oh, young people don't want to work, or it's just different. It's not that they don't want to work. Of course they want to work. Everybody wants to work and feel fulfilled and do good. You just have to recognize it. And that's it. I think that's a real challenge for us to motivate those people and give them the environment to flourish where they want to be with you and they want to work with you and they want to come forward. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's
well, they say if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? So the ones that really make it, in fact, combine young people with what we call vintage people versus old, but vintage people, and they both benefit that way.
I think you also have to recognize, I spent 9 years in an accounting firm, and one thing they did very, very well was the funnel system. They took in so many people at the bottom, and every time there was a promotion level, they lost some. And I think we all need to recognize that too, that if you want, 10 people at this level, you need to take in 100 people at the bottom level. You're going to lose people through natural attrition, through it's not the right fit for them. So don't hire 10 people because you need 10 people in 10 years' time. Hire more. We have a graduate program in Fife the last couple of years, which has been enormously successful. And we seem to have graduates everywhere. But yet when you look around, we've got a couple of guys in their 30s who are running businesses now. And we only have those 4 or 5 guys because we started off with 50 guys. And that's an investment. It's a lot of money. And you get some guys who aren't doing a whole lot, and you have to, in your busy day, you have to make sure you find time to, Mark is 22 and he doesn't know what he's doing. I need to give him 20 minutes. I need to make sure that he's feeling valued and he knows what he's at. And that's an important time and money to invest as well. But it's all about young people, Mark. And particularly, our industry is not a sexy industry. I say to the guys at work, the kids coming out of college, very few of them say, I want to work in the produce industry. So we need to make sure that of the crop that do want to work in fresh produce, we get the best of them. Because, you know, the best and the brightest, they're going to Amazon and Google, and they're all going to high tech. So if you know, we have a real challenge in an old, what's seen as a kind of a stodgy industry. It's a real challenge to attract bright young people, and it's much more difficult for us than it is for Amazon or Tesla or some of these people.
Well, two things I'll say is I know a really good search firm that you can, number one. Number two is I think that there's a lot of opportunity for that to change with everything we're talking about, with the regenerative, with technology coming into farms and farming, et cetera. There's an opportunity for some sizzle, I think, in the agribusiness industry now that that could really, you know, really change things. And it's not just a matter of if you love bananas or melons, it's a matter of the whole picture. Like we talked about, I work for a company like Fife's that brings food to people, really good food to people. And that's, you can be proud of that, you know.
Yeah, it's part of how you sell it. I mean, are we farmers? Are we in the fresh produce business? Or are we a vital part of the healthy lifestyle and fitness industry?
Yep.
It's the same thing. You know, the banana is all of that. The melon, pineapple is all of that. You can sell it in a way that makes it much more attractive.
Yeah, no doubt. So two last questions on this part. So what is your favorite fruit?
I suppose it changes. I recently rediscovered kiwis. I used to eat a lot of kiwis and I hadn't ate them in so long. And I was making a salsa and it said to put kiwis in it. And I've been buying kiwis every day when I go to the supermarket since. So it changes. Yeah.
That's a good choice. I like kiwi too. The second question is, what are you most grateful for right now?
What am I most grateful for? I think my circumstances. And by that I mean, we are a very happy unit. You know, I'm 27 years married. We're very happy married. The kids are very happy. And my wife and I both come from close families. So we have huge family units on each side. And, you know, you look around and you see there's a lot of hardship with COVID and a lot of economic hardship in the world. And I'm not a spiritual person, but we always say we're very lucky. And we always say to each other, don't forget, we're very lucky. And why are we lucky? Well, we're lucky because we're really healthy and we're all together and our kids are doing well and they're in college and we don't have any problems. So, you know, that's my circumstances, all of that together. You know, my biggest problem is the 200 unanswered emails or the Great Pyrenees who eats the furniture. I mean, really, you know, if that's your biggest problem, we're in a good spot. You know?
Well, you just echoed what one of the quotes my mom would always say, which I think she stole them all, but it doesn't matter, was, if that's the worst thing that happens to you today, then you're doing okay. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and people need to, I mean, ourselves, we and you as well. Obviously, we are at the lucky end of society, so don't lose track of that. You know, that's important.
Yep, and you know, with that comes responsibility to make a difference out there for others.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you could contribute with time, attitude, mentor people, whatever you can do. You know. What was it? There's some famous saying about I forget the figures. Maybe it's the 7-35-55. Are you familiar with that rule? I think it's so I won't remember it correctly. I remember the last part of it though. It's like people, 7% of people will remember how you looked, 35 will remember what you said, and 55 will remember how you made them feel. And
well, that's more a Maya Angelou quote. That's my favorite quote of all time, by Maya Angelou, that said, most people will forget what you told them, most people forget what you've done, but they will always remember how you made them feel. So
that's true. Yeah.
You're right on the money, my favorite quote. Well, you are certainly one of the leaders who care. That's why you're here.
Thank you.
So I appreciate your insights, the conversation, your friendship, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, great talking to you. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you, Mark.